Long time no see. I hope everyone is doing well. I know I haven't posted on here in a while, but I'm back now that I have kind of like a frame of thinking on what I want to talk about. And I feel as though jealousy has been like a large theme in a lot of people's lives. I know it's been a large theme in mine. And I feel as though jealousy is something that you really don't realize. I feel as though you see jealousy best in hindsight. I do feel as humans, we kind of gaslight ourselves into believing that people aren't jealous of us because I think it's very easy for us as people to kind of think like, I'm really not all that special. Why would somebody want what I have? Or why would somebody be jealous of something like that because I'm not jealous of something like that? And I'm not saying that you should always make the assumption that somebody's jealous of you. I'm not saying that, but I don't think that is something that you should also like not write off of being a possibility why somebody's behavior is changing towards you or maybe why somebody is like treating you a certain type of way because I really do feel as though jealousy can be the root cause of a lot of things, and I kind of feel as though a lot of emotions from other people kind of start off as jealousy, and then jealousy will kind of morph into other emotions, maybe bigger emotions, where that can also turn into envy and hate and sabotage and things like that. So I kind of want to dig deep more on jealousy because we see how jealousy is kind of perpetuated in the media. We talk about jealousy on a very extreme level, but I kind of want to talk about the diagnosis of it. So that way you don't take things like jealousy so personal. And also, if you are experiencing jealousy, because come on, we've all been jealous at some point in our lives. That's a regular, welcome. That's a regular basic human emotion to be jealousy or to be jealous. Jealousy isn't actually a negative emotion. It's what happens when you actually don't realize that you're jealous of someone and what to do with that jealousy. That's what makes jealousy dangerous. But jealousy is not inherently dangerous, which brings me to my first point of having a spiritual, I guess, diagnosis of jealousy. Really, jealousy is just a mirror. It's a mirror of your inadequacies. It's essentially a compass, okay? So, really, it's kind of like a whisper, okay? You will see somebody and you'll be like, "Oh, well, I wish I had that." Well, it's not that you can't have it. Like there is not a person that you're looking at and being jealous of and they just like have some superpower or some capability that you don't have the ability to obtain. You definitely do. Okay? And a lot of it has to do with like desires that you're suppressing, um maybe like potential that you may be ignoring, or just flat out blocked energy. You know what I mean? Jealousy puts your ego in check, and I think that's what makes jealousy a very uncomfortable emotion for a lot of people, because jealousy doesn't protect your ego because it allows you to really see plainly and clearly what it is that you're lacking and how you're inadequate in some way. And the last thing that the ego wants to do is to know that it is inadequate and to know that it is not fully living in a state where it is capable of doing whatever it is that they're seeing another person is doing, which is therefore making them jealous. Okay. Um, I talk a lot about chakras on the channel. On this channel, I talk a lot about chakras. I have a quite a few videos talking about the chakra, especially the sacral chakra. But in this case, um, your solar plexus, okay? Give me a second here. Hmm. So, your solar plexus, it's really, really important, in my opinion, for you to kind of understand when you have certain emotions, like being conscious of how you're feeling a certain emotion and how it's being processed by your body. Okay, a lot of the time jealousy is rooted in your solar plexus, of you like having some type of like blockage there, because okay, your stomach is where you store fat. Okay, that's the reason why your stomach is a very vulnerable thing to show off. Like, it's not just a societal thing for you to show off your stomach. It's because your solar plexus, it's rooted in confidence. Okay. Um that your stomach is where all your core organs are. Okay. So jealousy, all right, jealousy, when it comes to you having a solar plexus blockage, that has to deal with your confidence, your self-worth, your personal power, you know? And so what happens is that when your solar plexus is not grounded and when it's not open and free, you tend to have a hard time, or people will have a hard time dealing with like seeing you win. People will have people will constantly need to um seek you out for validation, or you're seeking out validation outside of yourself, and then you will compare and then be very frustrated at how you cannot compete, you cannot match up with the person that you're comparing yourself to. Like, the the thing about it is that everybody's been jealous. Okay, like, I don't care anybody that's saying you've never been jealous. You've been jealous before. You're able to cut your jealousy off in a sense and kind of understand like the jealousy doesn't have to travel any further by not comparing yourself to another person. Okay, because I mean, hold on, let's do this. Hold on. So sorry, I was trying to look at the denotation. I was trying to look it up, but it really doesn't have a clear one, because they put it as like zealous and jealous because they're kind of borrowed as words, um because they're English suffix words. But I feel as though your jealousy really will stop. In my opinion, after jealousy, the next step after jealousy is comparison. You will know that you have a really strong hold on your solar plexus and like your confidence, your self-esteem, and things like that. I feel as though you have a very strong hold on those things, where if you do have jealousy, you will cut it off at jealousy and you don't go to the next step of comparison. When you can acknowledge the fact that somebody has something that you would like, and you don't resort to comparing yourself to that person, that's how you know you have a very healthy relationship with jealousy. And that jealousy, you have it just at a basic level where it belongs. Once someone is jealous of you and their next step is to compare themselves to you, it's a slippery slope after that. And it's very, very hard. I kind of feel as though once people get into a comparison game after jealousy, it's over. Once they go down that path, most of the time people aren't going to stop themselves at that point. And for me, that's how I know that I will have to cut ties from someone, or I will have to kind of tread lightly with the person when I see that their jealousy has now spiraled into comparison, especially if it's like repeated. Okay, especially if like they see you doing something, they want to duplicate that thing, and they want to do it repeatedly. That's how I know. I'm like, okay, something might be off here. Okay, this might be rooted in jealousy, this behavior that I'm seeing from this person doing that, because they're not lying when they say comparison is a thief of joy. So for me, sizing yourself up next to other people, it's time for you to check your gut. Okay, like honestly, it's time for you to do core work. It's time for you to do breathing exercises. You need to get your center activated. You do. You need to get your center activated, or whoever the other person is, they need to get their center activated, so that way they're not acting out of jealousy. And I'm glad to be back here on the spiritual channel too. It's nice to be back because I haven't posted on here in so long. Um, Also, another thing with jealousy is that it really does just come from a scarcity mindset. People that tend to really be rooted into jealousy, and they have it veer them in very dangerous paths and very destructive paths, is because they believe in lack. They're coming from a place of lack, and they're coming from that mindset of there's not enough for everybody, right? They have something, and so now there's less of it for me. You know, their light is shining bright, and so it's dimming mine. There's only one throne, you know? When people think that and they have that scarcity mindset in regards to things, it's coming from a place of lack. They don't understand that there's an abundance of everything, and they don't understand that someone shining bright is not dimming your light. Okay, someone getting love is not you missing out or receiving less love. Okay, none of it is running out. Everything is supposed to be abundant. Source is abundant, and when you remember that your source too, and you're an abundant individual, and everything it is that you're seeking is already within you, and you can also create the source of that thing that you're looking for, it's a lot easier for people to just kind of have jealousy be an emotion that comes and goes. But we already know that most people live in like a scarcity mindset. Most people don't know how to come from a place of abundance. Um, this is why, like for me, I always like especially with money. Okay, especially with money. This is the reason why I don't really like people that hoard money. I don't even like people that hoard anything, okay? People that hoard things, they have a scarcity mindset, and that scares me, okay? Ooh, I don't know what that was. Something like was shaking underneath me. Um, Even when I don't ever have a problem giving money, especially to other creators on here. I never have a problem giving other creators money because it's like the money's abundant. I know the money's going to flow back to me. And like, I don't care about using my money to support other people because I'm not in competition with anyone. There's no jealousy, you know, there's nobody that is, there's not a person who I'm looking at and thinking like, oh, well, they're doing this better, or they have more followers, or they have more subscribers. No, there's enough room at the table for everybody to eat. And each person is allowed their own individual meal. You might want steak, they may want salmon, someone may want a salad, but guess what? We're all eating, right? Even if we're eating a different thing, we're all eating at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter. There's enough for everybody. So a lot of that jealousy really does come from a person thinking that there's just not an abundance of anything. That's another way that you could tell if somebody might be harboring some type of jealousy toward you too, is you should really get a good deal and a good handle on how they're dealing with things in which they're lacking. You know, are they really feeling as though they're at a deficit when it comes to lack? Do they not feel as though they're living a life of abundance, or they don't see things around them to be abundant, to be able to be replenished? Okay. And then that brings me to my next point. So I already talked about jealousy with men on the other channel. So over here, I like to dig deeper into more like feminine or like wounded feminine energy, like repressed feminine energy, since I talk so much about males on the other channel. Okay. A lot of the time when it's women who are jealous of you, or maybe you're struggling with jealousy as a woman, it really is a sign of having a wounded, or an unexpressed, you know divine feminine. And the thing about it is that living in a patriarchal society where women are already groomed to be male centered, the competition is already kind of innately bred within women. So a lot of women are much quicker to compete as opposed to connecting with you. Um, and so the thing about it too, there are a lot of women who are very envious of women who are beautiful. They have nice bodies, or like they have a nice fashion sense, or things like that. And honestly, that really could be from the fact that growing up they were repressed. They weren't allowed to wear makeup, or they weren't allowed to wear their hair a certain way. They weren't allowed to dress themselves up for school or anything like that. They don't have a fashion sense or things like that. So jealousy really can it really can be, in my opinion, more wounded for women. This is just my opinion and just based off of my experience. Um, Simply because the women are bred more to compete with one another more. And then another thing too when it comes to jealousy is it really can be rooted in identity. That's also another reason why it can be reflective of you having a wounded feminine, or the other person having a wounded feminine, because jealousy also is like a compass of things that maybe you're too afraid to do that are actually a core part of your identity. And maybe you might have neglected your identity, or maybe you had no choice but to neglect your identity, depending on who your parents were, depending on how you grew up. Maybe your parents didn't want you to dress like, or listen to alternative music, or dress goth, or like whatever it is that you might have been into that your parents didn't want you to do. Jealousy can also be a compass for you to return to yourself, um and for you to actually start being more authentic with the things that you enjoy doing, or how you enjoy expressing yourself, whether it be verbally or through clothing or makeup or anything else. Because you'd be shocked at how many people will be jealous of someone, all because that person is being authentic. And the person that's being authentic, they're not thinking anything of it. They're just kind of like, this is who I am. But there are a lot of people who are very jealous of people that get to be authentic, because they've kind of lived their whole life shackled up in this identity that's not true to them, right? When in reality, I mean, you're always going to be your best self when you're rooted in your own purpose, because then nobody else's success is really gonna be a threat to you. It's going to more so be an inspiration to you, if anything, right? Yes, yet is it the same as regretting the choices I've made after learning I should have chosen better? Okay, I don't know like what question that was in reference to what I said, but this is what I will say. Um Me personally, I don't believe in regretting any choices, okay? Because in addition to free will, there is destiny. You don't have 100% free will, and you don't have 100% destiny either. It's kind of like a combination of both. And so the good thing about it is that there's no point in regretting it, because The result could have been a different way, and who's not to say that you weren't going to regret what the different result might have been. It's just more so, I think regret comes from not knowing what the outcome was going to be. But that's life, you know? You're going to have to experience things in order for you to regret them, right? That's why they always say hindsight is 2020. Hindsight is always going to be 2020. You're not going to know what to do until you actually do it. And whatever the outcome was from that situation, now you have a compass with your life on how you should maybe go about that because you already have it as an experience in your life. So that's also another reason why I kind of feel as though um some of the decisions that you're making are really just divine intervention, and you won't know that until the future. You won't. That's why, like, I'm a firm believer in hindsight is 2020. There's no point in having a regret because you made the decision coming from a certain type of place and whatever version you were of yourself at that time. As long as you learn something from it, but that's the point. The point of you making choices and making decisions is for it to be a lesson, for it to be a compass on how you should move forward and how you should make decisions moving forward in your um life. And that's why it's really important for you to just be conscious of what you're telling yourself and how you're actually thinking about certain things. That way you can be a little bit more cognizant on, like, where is this decision coming from, or where is this thought process coming from, and digging deeper on these things, so that way you can be a little bit more intentional on the decisions that you're making. But no regrets ever. I feel as though, I don't know, I feel as though, in my opinion, life isn't all that fun when you can't go back and regret a few decisions that you made. Like, you didn't know. Life would be boring if you knew how to do every single thing and make the right decision. It would be super, super boring. The whole point of life is for you to be able to learn lessons. And I don't know, to me, there's not enough life in the world to live for you to have all the lessons. That's why some people got to come back. They have to come back and they have to reincarnate as somebody else so that way they can come back and learn more lessons. So that way they can get an understanding of whatever lessons it was that they did not master when they were here previously. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But yeah, I feel as though jealousy is such a complex thing. It's something that even I myself have really mastered when it comes to picking up on jealousy from other people. I think it can be, we live in a society that constantly wants you to be humble. So this is why it can be very hard for you to pick up on if somebody's jealous of you, because most people are always going to look at themselves and say, why would somebody be jealous of me? And this is the reason why I don't believe in being humble. I do not believe in being humble. I'm never going to tell someone that they should be more humble. Um, to me, being humble is playing small. To me, being humble is not living in your power and living in your truth of, like, how great that you can be. Um, no successful person, no person in their purpose is ever going to be humble. When you decide that I'm not going to be humble, I feel as though you open up your eyes more and you're able to pick up on how people truly perceive you. When you're always trying to water yourself down because you're trying to stay humble, it can be very hard for you to pick up on if somebody's being jealous, if somebody's being passive aggressive. Where is this coming from? Like, no. I feel as though being humble, and I feel like it puts you more in a predicament to have somebody be jealous of you and for you to not notice it. Because it's like, no, if you actually understand the aura and the energy that you carry, you are truly aware of it, you would understand and know why people would be jealous of you, or why people wouldn't be supportive of you, because they already see you as competition. And they don't want you to win. That's the reason why, like, I've kind of put myself in a state of isolation currently, because I don't have time for that. Honestly, I don't have time for that. And the thing about it is that jealousy jealousy isn't always this nefarious thing either. Um I think people take jealousy as something being super obvious. People are getting better and better and better at hiding their jealousy. I mean, literally, they will hide their jealousy behind all the support, all the love, all the showing up. They will hide it until one day they can't hide it anymore. And then the little, Freudian slips will come out. Like I remember I had a friend, and I'll never forget she said this. It was my bodybuilding competition. It was my second bodybuilding competition. And my friend was heavier. She was a heavier girl, which I never like cared about that. I don't really have like an opinion about people in regards to that. Never bothered me, but it was the day of my competition, and I needed her to record because I didn't have my tripod with me to be able to send pictures to my coach. And so she recorded for me or whatever. And then she finished recording for me. She was like, I can't wait until you gain your weight again. And because it was the day of my competition, that was just not a comment that I could kind of in the moment reflect on, because I had a competition coming up. Like I'm focused on my routine. I'm focused on, everything else that I'm doing for like this competition. But that comment like stuck with me. Honestly, that comment has stuck with me. And yeah, it had everything to do with the fact that the person was actually very jealous of my discipline, turns out. And later after the fact, I actually ended up calling the person out on what it was that they had said. Um because it was just an odd thing to say. And I feel as though when it comes to jealousy, it's that small. People will try to gaslight you and be like, oh, you're reading into it. It's not that deep. It's not that serious. Whole time, it really is that deep, and it really is that serious. And it is something that if it's making you feel a certain type of way, you're not crazy for addressing it. You're not insecure for addressing it. You're not being dramatic for addressing stuff like that. I really do feel as though if something is giving you a visceral feeling and the person only said or did one little thing, I feel as though for what it's worth, it's best to just call it out and try to figure out where that is coming from. But yeah, later down the line, I realized like, oh, okay, this is actually at the root of how this person really truly feels about me. Um, because that was just such an odd thing, in my opinion, to say to someone on their competition day, especially with with what I do for what I was actually doing like for a sport, and you claim to be supportive of that, but whatever. Um, but yeah, that's really all I have in regards to um jealousy, and kind of like breaking down everything with jealousy and where it comes from, and spiritually how it can guide you to lead you back to yourself. Just don't put yourself in a predicament when you're comparing yourself to other people. You really are you really are your own special um person and unique person, with your own passion, with your own gifts, with your own beauty and divinity and all of those things, where I promise you, you don't ever need to put yourself in a predicament where you're jealous of somebody. But also understanding how to protect yourself from jealous people, and understanding that you cannot humble yourself to make other people feel comfortable around you. You can't, because all humbling yourself is going to do is just make you easier prey. You have to be aware of the gifts that you possess, and you also have to guard those things, and not be so willing and open to share those things with other people, and kind of open up that door even more for envy, because another thing about it too is that for a lot of people it's just your energy too. You don't have to do anything for people to be jealous of you. It's just how you carry yourself. It's just how you make other people feel too, where people could be very jealous of you, but you have to know that. You have to know that you have that essence that will make people feel uncomfortable, and it will make people have a visceral response to you. You have to be aware of that. That way you can kind of, it won't be such a surprise, and you'll understand where it's coming from, and you won't take it so personally. Um because that's another thing too. You should never take another person's jealousy personally, ever. That's their problem. Okay, that is their problem. If a person can't deal with their own jealousy and they don't know how to process that emotion, and they feel as though the best way for them to process their jealousy is to um try to control you, try to shame you, try to talk down on you, get away from people like that. It's not your responsibility at all to have people try to sit in their comfort with being jealousy. No, they have to do the hard work like everybody else and push past their uncomfortability to become the version of themselves that they're avoiding, because the jealousy is highlighting it and putting a mirror up to it. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, that's all I have on this topic today. If y'all want to talk in the chat, we can. Um, okay, I want to gossip a little bit. I do. I want to gossip a little bit. So, I don't know if you guys heard about Priscilla the Queen Maker, especially about something like this. I don't want to gossip about it on my main channel. It's less people over here. So I feel as though I'll reward you guys for visiting me. So I don't know if any of you guys watch Priscilla the Queen Maker, but I would love to know y'all's thoughts and opinions on this. So I guess there's another content creator that like claims that Priscilla the Queen Maker is like grooming her girlfriend because her girlfriend is 24 and Princella's 40. So the girl ended up posting a video on TikTok yesterday, and it came across my For You page. And I guess it was a video in direct response to the content creator that like claimed that she was grooming her or whatever. What really stuck out to me was that the girl used to be a stripper. She used to be a stripper. Now, I don't know if Priscilla took her from the strip club, but that was interesting to me because this is the thing. I should have talked about this on the main channel now that I think of it. This is the interesting thing to me about like, I guess, grooming or like age gap relationships, is that when I look back at me, because when I was 23, I was working in the club back then. This is the thing about it. I Once again, hindsight is 2020. I feel like when you're being groomed, you're never gonna know that you're being groomed, especially when someone is taking you from someplace like the strip club and they're offering up what you would perceive to be better. It never feels like grooming, because I feel like grooming is not nefarious. I'm not saying that it's happening. I'm not in their relationship, but very interesting dynamic with the age gap, because me personally, in my opinion, with age gap dating, I personally believe that anything, knowing what I know now and with my own life experience, in my opinion, anything after 30 for you to like choose to be in an age gap relationship is off limits. So like your age gap, for me, your age gap dating can start at 30. Anything under 30 and there's like larger than, the younger you are, the smaller the gap has to be. Honestly, the smaller the gap has to be. But if we're talking about 10 years plus, we're talking about an age gap 10 years plus, you got to be 30 years old. I'm sorry. You got to be 30 years old. But it was so interesting to hear her talk more about like their dynamic, and kind of about how all of that happened, and about how they ended up like meeting one another. But me at 23, oh no, even at 23, I wasn't with somebody that was 40. I think the largest age gap that I had was maybe 8 years. And even looking back now, even I could see the difference in like what that person was like showing me or telling me, and actually noticing like, oh shit, like it kind of did impact me in a way, even though at the time it didn't seem like it was a big deal. And the person wasn't dangerous or anything. I mean, the person wasn't like harmful, not at all. But I don't know. I always find it to be very strange when you look back at your life when you do things that you did when you were younger. And it's not like some dangerous thing that you're doing, but when you look back, you just kind of realize, like, oh, wow, there were things that I didn't know and I didn't realize that were happening or that were in front of me. And it's not until you get older. I guess it's one of those like you had to be there type of moments. Um, Instead of you having to be there, you have to get there. Like, you're not going to realize the shit that you were doing in your 20s didn't make any sense until you hit your 30s, and then so on and so forth. So that's all I wanted to say. It wasn't really piping tea for real. It was just kind of like an observation, I guess, more so that I was saying. Um, I try not to put my nose in their business, but it came up on my For You page. And I was like, oh, that's interesting because I've been there before. You know what I mean? Because I was super naive, super, super naive. You just overlook things when you're younger, and especially coming from the club. It's not that hard for it's not that hard for certain things to look good to you when you leave the strip club. Is pretty much like what I'm trying to say. But that's all I have, okay? I hope you all enjoyed my little spiel on jealousy and where it all comes from and what to do with it if it ever arises in your life. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this and you all got some clarity and some wisdom today. It was nice to be back on here. And yeah, I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.